Most entrepreneurs don't have a real business. They have a job disguised as a business. If they stop working, everything stops working. Revenue, growth, momentum. But the entrepreneurs who actually scale without their business relying on them working 24/7 do one thing differently. They build systems. And if you don't, you'll stay trapped, overworked and stuck in the daily grind without an ounce of freedom. Now this is exactly what I have my clients at selfmastery.co fix. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can systemize your business so that it doesn't only run without you, but so that you can take back control of your time, scale faster than ever, and finally get the freedom that you started your business for. And look, this isn't a damn Netflix show, okay? If you're looking to be entertained, don't watch this video. I'm here to help you build systems as best as I can, not entertain you. So if you're looking entertainment, click off. But if you're looking to change your business forever, keep watching. Let's dive in. Now, before we tackle the nuts and bolts, let's lay the groundwork, because without this, you'll quite literally never build systems correctly. So many entrepreneurs shy away from systems because they think it'll be overly rigid, stifle creativity, or slow them down with too much documentation. But that's just wrong, because in reality, systems give you freedom by reducing guesswork and repetition. Systems make you scalable because you can replicate success consistently. Systems enable you to step away and your business keeps running. Let me show you what I mean, okay? I once worked with a client who ran a marketing agency. Now, she had tried building systems in the past, but to put it nicely, she didn't build them right, okay? And she was completely against creating systems because she thought it would limit her spontaneity, creativity, and freedom, all thanks to her bad experience with systems in the past. But here's the thing. She was working 10 hours a day, wearing all the hats, sales, marketing, client delivery, admin, you name it. She couldn't see how she'd ever bring on more clients or team members without imploding. Once we shifted her perspective from systems are restrictive to systems are freeing, everything changed. We created systems, cut her weekly work by over 20 hours, and it freed her up to hire a creative director and focus on the strategic aspects of her agency. And that is the power of having systems, because the cost of having zero systems is huge. You end up reinventing the wheel every single time you go to do something. Mistakes get repeated and you have no reference point for improvement. Team members, if you have them, feel lost or uncertain about responsibilities, leading to bottlenecks and inefficiencies. You can't scale effectively because success remains personality driven rather than process driven. Now, if you want to build systems and in turn a business that doesn't rely on you working 24/7, you need to focus on 5 main steps. We're going to dive deep into each one of them, okay? And to start, you need to understand the fundamentals of systems theory. So look, in its most basic form, a system has 3 components: an input, a process, and an output. Something happens, the input, that thing then triggers a number of steps, the process, and it creates something else, the output, okay? Now, if we take it up another layer of complexity, systems also have a feedback loop. This is essentially just how the output feeds back into the input and influences the input on the next run through of the system. Now, in business, this feedback loop is normally, but not always, data, okay? Because data is feedback. It tells you what's working and what's not. And then a system also has an environment. This is essentially everything outside the system that just influences the system. For example, other systems. Your sales system is affected by your marketing system, as if your marketing system is crap, you'll have 0 leads and therefore your sales system has 0 throughput and nothing to work with. In short, how this works is the input happens, it's processed and creates an output. That output can then influence the input. But really the main point here is that the output is determined by the input. And if you don't like the output you're getting, whether it's low client satisfaction or low sales, guess what? You can change the input to change the output. Now, whether you're a solopreneur or already have a team, each system you create must have an owner, someone who is responsible for the system, the completion, the improvement, the mistakes, the numbers. If no one owns the system, it's doomed to become a forgotten document collecting digital dust, okay? If you're a solopreneur, you obviously own all the systems, you're responsible for them all. If you've got a team, make sure each system, process, and step has a specific person responsible. You know, maybe your marketing guy is responsible for the marketing system. Ownership is the difference between a system that's actively used and improved and a system that's just, you know, a nice idea that nobody follows. And look, that is a very, very basic run through of systems theory, but it's really all you need to know to start building your business systems, okay? So as we go into these 5 steps, keep that basic systematic theory in your mind. Now, step one is identify your core functions. Every business has a number of core functions. These are the big pillars that keep your business running. Things like marketing, okay, where you attract and nurture leads. Sales, where you convert leads into paying clients or customers. Operations, where you deliver your product or service. Finance, where the goal is to manage your cash flow, maintain profitability, and do some basic accounting. Team management, the likes of HR, hiring, or training. Most businesses are going to have about 5 to 7 core functions, really depending on your business model. You know, coaching, e-commerce, SaaS, local services. The functions might look a little different depending on your business, or you might combine some, but generally these are the main departments. These core functions are your main systems, okay? So every function is a system in your business. Hence why this is step one. If you skip identifying core functions, you're not going to build systems. You're going to build random disjointed processes that don't connect in a coherent way. It's like trying to build a house, but never clarifying which part of the blueprint is for plumbing, which is for electricity, and which is for the foundation. You end up with a half-baked structure that just isn't going to work. The house doesn't stand. So since we obviously don't want that to happen to your business, here's how to identify your core functions, okay? Step one, list every task in your business. So quite simply, start by jotting down everything that happens in your business regularly, okay? Step two, identify the goal. So every task your business does should have a goal, okay? A purpose that it serves. If it doesn't have a goal, it is quite literally by definition purposeless. So beside every task that you wrote down, write down the goal, okay? Content creation might have the goal of generating leads. Onboarding clients might have the goal of delivering a world-class service. Sales calls might have the goal of closing clients, etc., etc. Just do that for every single task. Then move on to the next step, which is to group tasks. So based on the goals of each task, bundle the tasks with the same goals or similar goals under broader categories under your core functions. Now, to help with this, I would recommend focusing on the 5 core functions we talked about earlier and identifying the goal of each function, because each function has a goal. That is why it's a function. So the 5 core functions you should really focus on are marketing, where the goal is to generate leads or customers. Sales, where the goal is to convert leads into paying clients or customers. Operations, where the goal is to deliver your product or service. Finance, where the goal is to maintain profitability. And team management, where the goal is to ensure a smooth, productive, and beneficial workflow within the team, okay? Now, obviously, like I said a few minutes ago, your business might have different core functions. It might have more, but it will have those 5 most likely, okay? Now, for example, social media content creation, email marketing, and webinars would all have the goal to generate leads. Therefore, they can all be grouped under marketing, because the goal of the marketing function is to generate leads. So go through all of your tasks, bundle the tasks with the same or similar goals into the functions that most closely matches their goals. Do keep in mind though that those 5 functions I went over are only 5. You know, like I said, some companies might have more, but those 5 are almost always universal. And take your time here. You might discover that you have more going on than you realized, or that certain areas are less formalized than they should be. That's fine. There's no real rush. Just get it done, okay? And also, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can always change this and play around with it later, okay? So now, a few common mistakes a lot of people make here are overcomplicating it. So some people want to break every function down into sub-functions right away. Keep it high level at first, okay? Group everything into 5 to 7 core functions. That's it, no more. So you list out all your tasks that you have to do. You write down the goal of that task, and if it doesn't have a goal, eliminate it. It's purposeless and you don't need that task. Then you want to group all the tasks with the same goal or similar goals together. That should be under a core function. Now, the other mistake is neglecting important areas. So don't forget tasks like financial tracking, hiring, or compliance, anything that's vital to your business, but you might forget about. Step 2 is to map the processes within each function. Once you've gotten your functions laid out and all your tasks categorized into each function, it's time to turn the function into a system. So I may, from here on in, start calling, for example, your marketing function your marketing system, okay? Just understand that they're the exact same thing. A function is a system. So remember from earlier, a system is in its most basic form an input, process, output. Well, the output of each system in your business is the goal of the function, okay? So for example, the goal of your marketing system is to generate leads. And so the output of your marketing system is leads. That's what you want. That's the goal, the desired output of that system. And see all the tasks that you do in each function. They are your processes of the system. And typically, the first task is the input, okay? So if we define process, a process is simply a sequence of tasks or steps that, when followed, produce a predictable outcome. If marketing is the core function or the system that we're focusing on here, the processes of the marketing system is going to be all the tasks that you listed out earlier that fall under the marketing function, okay, where the goal is to generate leads. And so that process, those tasks under your marketing function or system might end up looking like this: core marketing message and target avatar, content creation and distribution, running and optimizing ads, lead magnet creation, lead nurturing. Each of those steps or things you have to do are a discrete process with a clear start and endpoint in regards to completion. And so if we look at your marketing system, it might look like this: input, core marketing message and target avatar. Process 1, content creation and distribution. Process 2, running and optimizing ads. Process 3, lead magnet creation. Process 4, lead nurturing. Output, leads book a call. Obviously, now I shouldn't have to say this, but that is literally just an example, okay? But you can see how we now have a clear visual or roadmap for how marketing works in your business. You have a core message which speaks to a target avatar. You create content, you run ads, you create and use lead magnets to gather emails from people. You nurture those leads, and the goal of all of that is for those leads, once they're nurtured, to book a call, at which point they then move into the sales system or function of the business. Now, I highly recommend you map all of your systems, all of this out in a flowchart style sort of systems diagram using either Milanote or Figma or whatever else, because when you map a system like this, you're creating a visual roadmap of exactly how something gets done. It often helps you reveal or identify where you might have bottlenecks, which steps are unnecessary, and also how to easily explain the process to someone new in your team. Think of it quite literally like a blueprint, okay? Because that's exactly what this is. If you don't have a blueprint, you are just hoping that everyone else or someone else magically follows the same structure or process as you that you have in your mind. And without a blueprint, the structure in your mind or the process in your mind might actually, might change. Now, we're going to go even deeper, okay? So building systems, it's half art and it's half science, because the science part is that there is a theory behind systems. There is a systems theory, and there's sort of like an engineering science aspect to it, behind constraints and behind systems and bottlenecks. And there's essentially a system for building systems, because here's something cool, okay? Maybe this is something only I find cool, but everything is a system, okay? Literally everything, be it an entrepreneur who sends cold emails to book sales calls to sign clients, or be it hydrogen protons colliding to cause the nuclear fusion that allows the sun to heat the earth. Everything is a system with inputs and processes and outputs. And what that means is that you see all those functions in your business, okay? You're going to have those 5 to 7 core functions, and how each of them are a system with its own inputs, processes, and outputs. Well, if we zoom out, okay, and we go bigger picture, we can view each of those functions as processes in the bigger system that is your business, okay? So you could view your business as a system with an input, processes, and all those functions that we identified could be your processes, and an output, okay? Or if we zoom in, when we look at each of those functions or main systems in your business, we can view each of the processes in each function as its own system. And so, the art of systems is, where do you stop making and building systems? Because you can just keep zooming in or zooming out and making more and more systems, okay? Now, keep that in mind, because I'm going to make it clear now. But first, let me give you another example of your marketing function as a system, just under sort of different contexts. So let's say you run a consulting business. A very simplified map of your marketing system might look like this: post content, attract traffic from CTAs in your content, direct traffic to an opt-in page where they can sign up for a lead magnet like an ebook, webinar, or case study, capture emails via an email marketing platform like ConvertKit, MailChimp, etc., nurture leads with an automated email sequence that educates and builds trust, invite to strategy call once they've engaged with the content. And then the feedback loop here is going to be data. What's the conversion rate of your landing page for the lead magnet? How many leads go through the email nurturing? How many leads book a call, etc. That data off that system provides feedback for the system. Now, Don't worry too much about data right now because we'll get into that later in the video. But in reality, each of these steps can get more granular, but that's a basic map, okay? Notice how we can see the entire flow from first contact to a book call, from the input to the output of this system. And this is also another reason why it's, you know, it's half art, it's half science, because there's no one universal way. Every business's systems and processes are going to look slightly or maybe vastly different. For example, the marketing system and really every single system for Coca-Cola is going to be entirely different from a one-person consulting business, okay? So what you need to do now is go and map out all your systems, going from input through all the processes to the output. And to help with that, I would recommend, there's a few things I'd recommend, okay? Use simple tools, okay? You don't need to overcomplicate this. You can use a whiteboard and draw this out. You could draw it out in a journal. You can use sticky notes, or you can use a simple flowchart software like Lucidchart, Miro, Milanote, Figma, etc. The other thing is to start high level, then go deeper. Don't overwhelm yourself by detailing every micro step at first, okay? You can start high level and you can go deeper later. So step 3 then is to create SOPs, standard operating procedures. So again, we're about to go a layer deeper into our systems. Let's stick with the marketing system as the example. So right now we've got our marketing system drawn out where the input is our core marketing message and target avatar. Process 1 is content creation and distribution. Process 2 is running and optimizing ads. Process 3 is lead magnet creation. Process 4 is lead nurturing, and output is leads book a call. What you're probably thinking by now is that, you know, content creation is a bit more detailed than that, Ross, and you don't just create content, okay? And it is, you're right, it is much more complex. So remember how I said that with systems, you can just keep zooming in because, well, everything is a system. Well, your content creation process can be viewed as a system with its own inputs, processes, and outputs. And so the next thing we need to do is map out the system for all the processes. Let's use the content creation process as the example. Again, this is just a rough example. This isn't me saying this is exactly how your content creation system should look. You know, use a bit of common sense, a bit of critical thinking, apply all these concepts to your own business, because obviously this is a YouTube video, it's pre-recorded. I can't apply this. I can't make this information incredibly specific to your business, okay? So you have to take the concepts and do them to your own business, okay? But you're smart, you can do that, so it's okay. And for simplicity's sake, let's say you only create content on one platform, YouTube, for example. Our input would be ideas, okay? That is the first step to any piece of content. You need an idea, something to talk about. Of course, this idea, this is where the input of the marketing system comes into play. It should be relevant to that input. It should be relevant to your core messaging and target avatar. We would then move into process 1, which would be then creating titles based on the idea. Process 2 would then be creating thumbnails based on the idea. Process 3 would then be planning the video outline. Process 4 would then be writing the intro. Process 5 would be writing the video. Process 6 would be recording the video. Process 7 would be recording B-roll if it's needed. Process 8 would be editing or uploading the files to Google Drive for the editor to edit. Process 9 would be scheduling and posting optimization, okay? And then the output would be leads. You know, obviously with social media content and especially with YouTube in this context, the output could be views. That could be what you're optimizing for. But since you're an entrepreneur and content falls under the marketing function which has the purpose of generating leads, I would consider the goal of your content creation system, in this example YouTube, to be get leads, okay? To get people to click the link in the description and enter your funnel or book a call or however you have this set up. So we have our marketing system, right? In that marketing system, one of our processes is content creation. That content creation process can be viewed as its own system with a series of other processes. And what you'll notice is that each time we do this, we just get more and more granular, more and more detailed and specific. And this is how we then create SOPs, standard operating procedures. We have a system, we then have processes, and then in those processes, each process has a series of steps, okay? So for example, we have a marketing system, which looks like this. The input is our core marketing message and target avatar. Process 1 is content creation and distribution. Process 2 is running and optimizing ads. Process 3 is lead magnet creation. Process 4 is lead nurturing, and the output is leads book a call. We then, for example, have a content creation process or system which looks like this. Our input would be ideas. Process 1 or step 1 would then be creating titles based on the idea. Process 2 or step 2 would then be creating the thumbnail based on the idea. Step 3 would then be planning the video outline. Step 4 would then be writing the intro. Step 5 would be writing the video. Step 6 would be recording the video. Step 7 would be recording the B-roll. Step 8 would be editing or uploading it to Google Drive for the editor. Step 9 would be scheduling and posting optimization. And then the output would be leads. Or it could be they sign up for your lead magnet, okay, depending on what your funnel and the rest of your system looks like. And those steps, well, see those steps, they form your SOPs. Now, an SOP it's simply a set of step-by-step instructions that anyone, you, existing team member or new hire, can follow to complete processes accurately. This is the operational backbone of your business, okay? But of course, there's a right and a wrong way to create an SOP. So what does a good SOP look like? Well, it usually includes 1, the title and date, so you can track like versions. 2, objective, what is the procedure meant to accomplish? 3, scope and owner, so who is responsible for this SOP and when is it used? 4, the materials and tools needed, so any softwares, templates or checklists, etc. 5, step-by-step instructions. So typically these are numbered or bulleted for clarity, potentially with screenshots or a short video also of you walking through doing those steps, which is what I would also recommend you include in your SOP. But those step-by-step instructions are basically the steps of that process that we just went over. 6, expected outcome. What does success look like for this procedure? 7, troubleshooting or FAQ. So anticipate issues and provide quick solutions in an FAQ section, or as people use it, if they come to you with questions, you update this SOP document in the FAQ with the solutions to those questions. So what you need to do next is break each of the processes of each of your systems down into the exact steps needed to complete that process. For example, like we did with the content creation process of your marketing system, we created 9 steps that you need to complete your content creation process, okay? Those 9 steps form the step-by-step instructions of your SOP. Now, I would highly recommend writing out the step-by-step version in a Google Doc or a Notion page or whatever you want to use, and then recording a Loom video showing you doing all those steps, talking through it. Then if you have a team, you want to do a clarity check and give it to someone who knows nothing about the task. Can they follow it from start to finish? If they can't, or if they have questions, update the SOP to make it more clear and to answer those questions or to solve their problems. And then finally, you want to store all your SOPs in one place. So the likes of Google Drive or Notion is normally great for this. This way all your SOPs are in one place and can be easily accessed. Let me give you another SOP example, okay? So imagine you run a web design agency and you have an SOP for client onboarding. This might look like step 1, initial welcome email, so a template with the correct greeting, brand voice, next steps. Step 2, contract and invoice, where to find the contract template, how to fill it out and how to send the invoice to the client. Step 3, project kickoff meeting, so the agenda, a meeting link, a list of questions to ask the client. Step 4, resource collection, so request brand assets, login credentials, etc., whatever you need, and provide a standardized document or form for the clients to fill out so that you can get this information. Step 5, set up in a project management tool, so step by step on how to create a new project, folders, tasks and deadlines. With such an SOP in place, any team member or even you, if you've forgotten a step, can onboard a client seamlessly. Creating these SOPs can take a lot of work to set up. Really depends on your business and how many things you have to do and what you do and your systems and how all that looks. Like I said, it's going to be very, very specific and nuanced to your business. But once you do the heavy lifting of creating a thorough SOP for all your processes and all your systems, it becomes a reference point, okay? You don't have to retrain employees from scratch. You don't have to scramble to remember how you did something 6 months ago. You don't have to guess. You don't have to worry about inconsistency or a lack of replicability. The system does the heavy lifting, okay? Now, that brings us to step 4, which is to audit and refine your SOPs. So, SOPs should not be static. SOPs are living documents because if you think about it, your business changes, technology evolves, and you discover new strategies and you remove old inefficiencies. That's why we want to audit your SOPs on a regular basis, and the whole idea is that your SOP, it's simply a series of tasks or steps needed to complete a process, or really a bigger task, right? And so we want to go through each of the steps of your SOPs and look for ways to automate. So which steps can be handled by tools or software, eliminate Which steps are no longer needed or add no value? Delegate. Which steps should you no longer handle personally? So let's break that down a bit deeper, okay? Go through each of your SOPs, right? And for each task, ask yourself, can this be automated? So some examples, and literally just some examples with AI and all now, automation it's crazy. So it's just some examples, right? Use automated email sequences. Use a CRM or email marketing platform to handle follow-ups, reminders, or lead nurturing. Project management, automate recurring task creation whenever you onboard a new client. Accounting, automate invoice creation, payment reminders, or expense tracking with tools like QuickBooks or Xero or whatever else. If you're struggling with this, a great thing to do is to feed in your SOP to ChatGPT and ask it, what can I automate here? It's normally pretty good at helping find ways to automate things. Now, once you've figured out what can be automated, go through the SOP again, and for each task, ask yourself, can this be eliminated? Okay, you'd be surprised by how many steps and tasks you do that just don't simply need done. A good framework to use here is, if I removed this task, would the process still get completed to a high quality in an efficient way? If the answer is yes, okay, if you remove that task and the process would still get completed to a high quality in an efficient way, then just eliminate that task, okay? It doesn't need done. Just make sure when you're doing this that you be strict and harsh, that you don't. We often have convinced ourselves that we need to do certain tasks when we don't, so don't try to unjustly justify to yourself why you do that task. Be strict here, okay? Now, again, some examples of things that could be eliminated are the likes of redundant approvals. If you at least if you trust your team members' judgment, remove steps requiring your sign-off for small tasks, okay? It could be obsolete reports. If you're not using a report to make decisions, if someone makes a report and then that report's just left there, stop creating it. Outdated methods. Maybe you once needed a phone call for every client update, but now you have Slack or Asana, so eliminate the phone call step if it's not adding value. Elimination is the simplest way to streamline, okay? It's just deciding we don't need to do this anymore. And then once you've figured out what can be automated and eliminated, go through the SOP again, and for each task, ask yourself, can this be delegated? So really this will depend on your business. You know, if you have a fully structured team, this might be pretty obvious, but if you're a solopreneur, delegation isn't something that you can do, okay? So this delegation goes back to what we talked about at the start of the video. Every system, process, and task of a system should have someone who is responsible for it, okay? So again, a few examples here are, if you're currently creating, all the graphics for your social media posts, consider delegating that to a VA or a designer. If you're handling the entire sales process, maybe you can delegate lead qualification to a sales assistant or a sales calls to a closer. Every task you delegate frees you to focus on higher level strategy, relationship building, or product innovation, things that only you can do effectively in your business. And by automating, eliminating, and delegating tasks from your SOPs, you can now stop working in your business and start working on your business. And the best part, with SOPs, if you hire someone, a freelancer or a full-time employee in whatever position, it's so much easier for them to pick up the pieces and do things without you having to micromanage them, because guess what? You've got a clear roadmap of what they need to do and how it ties into the bigger picture in the form of SOPs. And so they just follow it. But again, things change, okay? Business changes, systems break, SOPs become redundant. And so what you need to do is schedule a block of time every quarter, maybe just 2 to 4 hours, maybe a whole day, depending on you and your business, and go through and audit your SOPs, okay? So ask, what's changed? Is there new software that could replace manual work? Are any of these steps no longer necessary? Who is owning each SOP, and is that still the best person to own the SOP? Essentially, you just want to go through the SOPs and see if there's any steps that can now be automated, eliminated, or delegated. And maybe the SOP needs entirely rewritten because you've changed how you do the process in your business, or maybe you don't need that SOP anymore at all, or maybe you just need to add things to it. And the same thing for your systems, okay? Go through and make sure they don't need updated, changed, or adjusted. Either way, quarterly audit your systems and SOPs to ensure that they stay useful. Step 5, track data to identify bottlenecks and optimize. So, by now, you've mapped out your systems and your processes in the likes of Milanote or Figma or Lucidchart or whatever else. This gives you a big picture overview of your business and how it operates and all the moving parts, how they connect and play together. You've also created and audited your SOPs as well as stored them all in one centralized location like Google Drive so that they're easy to find and access. But how do you know if your systems are working well? The answer to that is data, okay? Data uncovers what's actually happening versus what you think is happening. It's objective, not subjective. It lets you see things for how they really are, okay? It quantifies efficiency, quality, and results. It provides early warnings for potential issues. Now, the big question with data is, what data do I track? Okay, well, the problem with this is, at least for a YouTube video, the problem is that it really depends on the core function or system and the processes of your business and how they look in your business. You know, for marketing, you might want to track leads generated, cost per lead, CTR, etc. For sales, you might want to track show up rate, close rate, average deal size, and sales cycle length. For operations or delivery, you might want to track project completion times, customer satisfaction scores, error rates, and for finance, monthly recurring revenue, profit margins, cash flow, overdue invoices. It really depends on the individual steps and processes of each of your systems, okay? Because a info business will have to track different things from a product business, who will have to track different things from a services business, and every service business will have to track different things depending on their sales process and their marketing and their operations. So it's incredibly nuanced for your business. But as a pretty good rule of thumb, if something can be tracked with a number, you want to track that number. You know, in your marketing function, the goal output is obviously leads. Okay, you want to generate leads, whether that's booking a call or however that looks for your business. That number, the number of leads, can be tracked with a number. Okay, therefore it should be tracked. And then in your operations system, the output is likely going to be delivering a good result. Okay, if you're a service-based business, it's going to be delivering a good result and your clients get results, okay? So the percentage of clients who get results, the promised result, can be tracked with a number, okay? So really the best thing I would recommend is to go through your processes and your SOPs and track the numbers of whatever can be tracked with a number. This way we essentially end up with a data point that reflects the efficiency of that part of your business. The best place to do this is in Google Sheets or Excel. So what I would highly recommend is you create a Google Sheet for each of your core functions or systems, create a tab for each month of the year in that sheet, as well as an averages tab that displays the average for each month and can therefore act as an overview, and then track the damn data, okay? Now, one thing we want to make sure of is that you track data daily, okay? So for each tab, for each month, make sure you have each day of the month on the left-hand side so you can track data for each day. But something crucial here is that you don't want to make decisions daily, okay? Because the thing with data is that there will be natural fluctuations. It will naturally go up and down and not be smooth. So if you make decisions based on the day-to-day because you know your number dropped today, right? Whatever that number is, and you panic, that's an inaccurate emotion-based decision, okay? Fluctuations are natural. What you want to do instead is make decisions based on the monthly trend. That is why the averages tab is so important, so that you can see what direction that number is moving in. And then you can make changes based on the trend, the direction. Now, one thing you have to understand about systems is that they are limited by their bottleneck. If a certain process or step slows the throughput, then the system is constrained by that bottleneck. And if you want to improve the throughput of that system, be it leads as the output of your marketing system or sales as the output of your sales system or whatever else, you must fix the bottleneck of that system that is constraining it. You must fix the constraint. And to do that, you need to be able to identify the bottleneck, okay? Now, with bottlenecks, we first need a sort of metric to compare each number that we track to. So we want to give every number that we track a KPI standard, a level that we want it to reach. Every number is going to have its own good benchmark depending on your business, the number you're tracking and your niche, etc. So you might know what that good standard is, you know, but if you don't, what I'd recommend is just ask ChatGPT, give it some context around your business, your systems, your niche, and then ask it for a good standard for that particular metric. Then once every number has a KPI standard, the goal is to get that number at or above the KPI, okay? For example, if your benchmark for a close rate is 30%, but you're at 10%, okay, that's not good, we're below the benchmark KPI, therefore we need to improve our close rate from 10% to 30%. And likely, you'll have multiple numbers below your benchmark. That's fine, especially if you've never really built systems before and you've never tracked data. It might scare you how underperforming your business is compared to how you thought it was. So you might have multiple numbers below benchmarks. That's fine, okay? We want to tackle them one at a time, okay? Because if you split your focus, you're going to get nowhere. Unless you have a huge team. If you have a big team, you can maybe tackle multiple numbers at a time if they're in different departments, etc. But as a rule of thumb, we want to tackle them one at a time. Of course, to do that though, we need to know which to start with. And that means we need to identify the biggest bottleneck or the biggest constraint. So if you have multiple numbers below benchmark, the bottleneck is typically the number below the benchmark earliest in the system, as fixing it will have the highest leverage. For example, if your book rate, so the percentage of people who book a call is 1%, but your standard is 5%, and then your close rate is 10%, but your standard is 30%. Since in the system of your business, booking a call is before closing the client, fixing the book a call metric is going to have more leverage as it's restricting the throughput of the system, okay? Now, sometimes this, again, that really depends on the data and the business. The bottleneck is not the earliest in the system. So for example, if a metric is far, far, far below the standard, it could be the bottleneck. But the only real way to tell this, what is a bottleneck, is to look at the damn data. That is why it's so important. With data, you're not guessing what step of the system needs improved. You're not guessing what to work on next. You're looking at objective facts. You're looking at what is limiting your business. You're analyzing reality and fixing the true bottleneck. That is why it's so good, okay? You stop guessing, you open up the possibility of you making real, predictable and reliable changes. Now, to put all of this into perspective, okay, I worked with a digital agency that had 3 full-time employees. The biggest challenge for the business was that the founder spent almost all of his time in project delivery, leaving little time for sales, marketing or strategic thinking. They also had no documented systems, so each project felt like starting from scratch. So what we did was we identified the core functions: marketing, sales, client delivery, or you could call it operations, finance, and team management. We mapped processes for everything, but we primarily focused on client delivery, okay? So launching a new campaign, reporting, and client communication. We turned each process into SOPs detailing how to create a campaign strategy, set up tracking, optimize ads, etc. And of course, sometimes in companies where the service is sort of like bespoke, right? These SOPs can be deviated from in certain points, that's fine, but they still form an amazing base for what works and what to focus on. We then audited the SOPs, so we automated repetitive steps with project management software, we delegated routine tasks to a junior specialist, and we eliminated outdated steps, like manual data pulling that was replaced by software. We then tracked data like client satisfaction and project profitability. We tracked way more, but they were the key focal points for us. And as a disclaimer, I also did a lot of mental performance work with the entrepreneur himself so that he had the capability of doing all of this, of being more productive, of making better decisions and becoming a person capable of operating at a higher level. Because I am a firm believer that everything in your business trickles down from you as the entrepreneur. So if you want to improve your business, you must improve yourself. And so as a result, what happened was the founder reclaimed about 10 hours a week. Profit margins improved because the team spent less time figuring things out and more time executing. The client satisfaction of their clients went up because everything was done methodically and consistently. And that is quite literally just one example of the power of systems, okay? Of course, systems can be more complex than what we covered, but that's actually normally because of some very common mistakes that people make. So right now I'm going to show you some of them and how to avoid them. The first mistake is trying to systemize everything at once. So the solution here is prioritize. Start with the core functions or processes that give you the biggest ROI in time or money saved. The second mistake is over-engineering your SOPs. So the solution here is aim for clarity, use plain language, break it down into easy steps, use bullet points, but you don't want to bloat the SOP with unnecessary fluff, okay? Simple always is better. Third mistake is not assigning a system owner. So the solution here is clearly designate who is responsible for each system or SOP. Even if it's you, put it down in writing, okay? This way, that person also is aware of the number that part of the system has to reach in terms of data. Therefore, they have a target to reach, okay? They know what they're responsible for and they know what they're responsible for improving and aiming towards. The fourth mistake is treating SOPs and systems in general as one and done, okay? So the solution here is schedule quarterly reviews, or whenever something major changes like a new software or new team structure, update the SOPs. The fifth problem is typically a lack of team buy-in. So the solution here is communicate the benefits to your team, how systems make their lives easier, encourage them to contribute ideas and give them responsibility for a certain part of the system. Whether it's a whole system, a process, or a step, give them responsibility, a number, a metric to aim for with that step, and they'll be over the moon, because we as humans love goals, okay? So give them the standard you've set for the number they'll be responsible for and incentivize them to reach it. The sixth mistake is typically ignoring data. So the solution here is set simple metrics for each system, do a quick weekly review or monthly review to see if you're hitting targets, and make decisions based off trends, not day-to-day fluctuations. That's probably one of the most important things I could say, okay? Don't base your decisions off day-to-day fluctuations. Base it off the trend. Systemization is a journey. It's not a destination. I know how cliche, but every new product, every new hire, every new marketing campaign you run might require fresh processes, new systems. This is normal, okay? It's healthy for a growing business. Also, systems typically break when their throughput is increased by 3x or 10x. So as your business grows, eventually you'll need to update your systems. And that's fine. A good way to keep on top of your systems though is to do 3 things. One is a weekly check-in. Take a quick 15 to 30 minutes to see if any system is breaking down, to see if you're hitting your target KPIs, to see if everything's running smoothly, okay? The second thing to do is quarterly audit. So this is a more in-depth review, updating SOPs, refining processes, reassigning owners if necessary. And the third thing is an annual strategic review. So look at the bigger picture. Are there entirely new functions or sub-functions emerging in your business? And look, if you have a team, get them involved in the creation of updating of SOPs and systems that are relevant to them and their position. Especially get the person responsible for that system or SOP involved, because they might notice a new shortcut to complete a task faster that you don't see. They might see a recurring error or confusion point, a tool that solves a repetitive pain. Let them bring their insights to your audits. And of course, if it's just you right now, that's fine. Just do it yourself, okay? But systems are how your business runs without you. And if you run it yourself, it is how you take the stress and pressure of having to work all day, every day off your fucking shoulders, off your damn shoulders, okay? Systems are how you work on your business, not in your business. Systems are how you work less but grow faster. Systems are your best friend. So right now, go and identify your core functions. Map out your key processes, create SOPs for those processes, audit and refine them to eliminate, automate and delegate tasks, and track data to continually optimize and spot bottlenecks. When you implement these 5 steps and you truly make them a part of your daily, weekly and quarterly routine, your business transforms, okay? You have changed your business so that you're not the bottleneck, and you step into a role where you can strategically guide growth without sacrificing your damn freedom, okay? Most entrepreneurs stay stuck working in their business rather than on it, but you don't have to. Systems are the bridge between hustle and freedom. Now, if you want me to help you systemize your business and master your mental performance, you can work less and profit more. Click the first link in the description below, okay? Book a call with me, we'll see if we're a good fit. If not, no worries, I'll not hold it against you. Just click it if you're interested, and I will see you in the next video.